Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Rajunulambita Bhujo Kanakabadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugodharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavotaro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gododaya Pushpavanto Chitro Sandotamanudo Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charano Sago Sukkado Paramanando Sundaro Subala Priyo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchan Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Shri Gauri Vaishnava Guru Parampara ki Jai Bhakti Vinod Paribar ki Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Gaur Premanande. Good evening. Nice to be with you. So today is one of the many auspicious holy days, holidays within Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Today is a day in which the fifth member, if you will, of the Panchatattva Shivas, Thakura, Pandit Shivas, is said to have departed from the world, and such departures are celebrated. So I thought we would speak a little bit about him and depart from, to some extent, from the nature of the discussions that we've been having so far. That is to say, that prior to our meeting here tonight, which is the beginning of the festival, I spoke a couple of days at Krishna Karnam and Amarasana's abode, which was well attended by some local devotees, and some of you were there as well. And therein we spoke for 2 days about the fact that we recently published 2 books, Bhagavad Gita, its filosofia, y la filosofia emoza. It's feeling and philosophy, which is a commentary on Bhagavad Gita and translation of the Gita that I did in English a quarter of a century ago. Seems like yesterday. It's famous for a few reasons. One of which was infamous for at first was that I had written a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and it was thought by many that Prabhupada already did that. and there was no room for anyone else to do it. But gradually, that kind of thinking has changed, but it's always good to be ahead of the curve. And now, of course, we have it in the Polish language, and it's been quite an effort for a number of years by a number of our dedicated Savites here. So our obeisances to them, our thanks to them. So we spoke a little bit about that book, and the way in which that commentary is, how I approached the commentary, roughly or briefly for the moment. I did so by way of investigating, if you will, or exploring the fact that Krishna, who spoke the Bhagavad Gita at Kurukshetra, had been there earlier in his Leela. So we looked at the Bhagavad Gita, which is a day in the eternal life of Krishna in his manifest Leela. And then reflected on the larger picture of his entire manifest Leela and found a connection, if you will, between his speaking the Bhagavad Gita at Kurukshetra and the fact that he had stepped on the sacred Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, previously. What was that all about? And how that prior meeting at Kurukshetra with his devotees might have an impact on what he spoke to Pandava Arjuna. You missed a good talk on that. But that's what the Gita commentary of mine is how I approached it, if you will. So it's such that it approaching it so gives more of a license, if you will, to explain the text in the way that we Gaudiya Vaishnavas understand it, which is a way that some people say, well, that's not in the text. That's not what it literally says, right? Once, when Prabhupada was involved in working with his disciples who were translating his Bhagavad Gita into English, he told them that well, why don't you just use, I think he said, Dr. Radhakrishna's translation. He was a one-time prime minister of India, and he was a Hindu and a scholar, and he had published a number and translated a number of books. I think he has an edition of the Upanishads and so forth. And of course, he had a monastic Advaitin orientation. And then Prabhupada's disciples said, but Prabhupada, that would be plagiarism. Prabhupada said, what do you mean? It's Krishna's words. Krishna spoke. But his point was that he had a sense of urgency, given his age and the mission that he felt that he was pressed, if you will, to carry out, which was of considerable scope. So he thought he the real thing, what's important is my purports, my commentary. So I mentioned this point earlier, and some of you have heard it from me as well in the past, but it's worth underscoring the insight of my beloved Siksha Guru, Pujapad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, who said that, who reasoned well, that the scripture, the Shastra, the text, is a passive agent of divinity. And the sadhu, by contrast, is an active agent of divinity. Sadhu, that means to say, activates the text, brings it to life in new times and new circumstances, and brings out new light from it that was always there, and which there will always be room for more of. He is Krishna, after all, the light of lights, and it's said in the sutras of Vyas that drawing as the sutras do from the Upanishads, I'll paraphrase, that Brahman, the Godhead, is beyond thought, beyond speech, from where, having gone, or tried to go, I should say, the mind returns. Couldn't get there. Where speech, having tried to go, could not reach, and returned. The Advaitins, like Shankar, Adi Shankar, he will explain the text that such that if he were true to his own explanation, he would become silent. But the Gaudiyas, they have a different way of looking at the verse, and they say that because the speech, having gone there, returns, therefore there is not enough that we can say about him. Not that we can say nothing. We can never stop talking about him. So there's always room for new light, for new commentary, and so forth. And we have a great tradition in our lineage of commentaries over the centuries by disciples, by gurus, their disciples, and so on. And this is what is meant by parampara. Parampara means literally one after another. And Prabhupada said the first business of a charge is to publish a book. So it wasn't the first book I wrote, but it was, well, we have it in Polish now. It's Bhagavad Gita. And in speaking about the Gita a little bit in this way, as I mentioned, the Gaudiyas, their view on the Gita is one that I guess you could say to love him is to know him. And no one loves Krishna and flatters Krishna more than the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. When they come out with statements like Krishna, to put it in Prabhupada's words, the supreme personality of Godhead, they're saying Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. They're taking a little one pada, one line of one verse out of 18,000 verses in the Bhagavad Purana, and they're making such a big deal out of that. They're interpreting that in such a way that everything revolves around that, around one line. Jiva Goswami replies to that kind of questioning. Good things often come in small packages. Inside the sutras of Vyas, which are very terse, so many commentaries, or lengthy commentaries, are coming out, right? In the schools of Vedanta. Inside the atom, what kind of power lies, right? Small is beautiful, it can be said. And that is the whole idea of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Small is beautiful. Vrindavan is small in appearance. But its beauty is, of course, that it's big by way of affection. All of Vaikuntha can be found in there and more. All the love of this world, which is only a shadow of real love, can be found there and more, right? You can go from the physical world, which is so limiting. We're unfortunately grounded in the physical world, and then we evaluate possibilities based on the limitations of the physical world. But it's only one dimension. Even in our own experience, if we stop for a moment and think, we realize that the mental world is much bigger than the physical world. We don't give it as much credibility because our our experience in dream, for example, doesn't last as long, it seems, as the events in our lives in the physical world. But at the same time, all the events in our lives in the physical world are mentally driven. We are mental and emotional beings, right? This is, of course, the Vedanta point, the greater content there. Prabhupada used to say, in the physical world, you can have gold and you can have a mountain, but you can't have a gold mountain. But in the mind, you can have a gold mountain very easily. Mind stuff, right? It's more complex, more possibilities. Indeed, the physical world is, in its limitations, are constantly overridden, or the possibilities of the physical world are constantly being expanded by what? By the imagination of we humans, by the imagination that maybe something more is possible. Maybe we could sail across the flat ocean and not fall off on the other side, right? Maybe we could go to that lunar orb in the sky, right? And of course, in all of this imagination, we are only, which is such a big part of life. Don't dismiss dreaming, because dreams can come true, right? In the land where dreams can come true. You know that song? Somewhere over the rainbow. Where the dreams that you dream really do come true. This is this so much characterizes in a poem, in a song, what human life is about. It's about the pursuit of the sense that drives human life, the sense that there's more to life than what meets the eye, physical, and the mind. And of course, the wonderful thing is that's us. That is consciousness coming out from underneath the covering of mind and psychic and physical matter, and asking questions really about itself. What is all this traveling? What is all this imagination, and so forth? But it's imagination means we were looking for the I. That's what we're looking for. I. It's the smallest word in the English language, most used and the least understood. You went to the moon. We say, very good. What were you looking for? And did you find it? And by our analysis, you're looking for the more that you're looking for the I am. That is the only thing that you really know. I am. Whether you are, I'm not sure, but I know that I am. This is, this is where Vedanta begins. Let's begin with this. That this is a subjective experience. Now we're so bent on demonstrating everything by objective, third-party, verifiable evidence. Otherwise, we dismiss it. But if we apply that to our own subjective experience that I am, we cannot objectively demonstrate that. But the whole of our existence is driven by that and based on that. And all Vedanta is about this. What am I? What is the I? And Gaudiya Vedanta takes us deep within that. Not only what I am not, neti neti, what I am not, but the more what is not only that I endure, that I am, that I endure, while the everything else is here today and gone tomorrow. Thoughts are here today, they're gone tomorrow. Things are here today and gone tomorrow. I should say thoughts about things are here today and gone tomorrow, but we could use the mind to think our, about I. Hmm? Then it would become a vehicle, if you will, as will the physical body as well. This is the life of sadhana. Hmm? A vehicle for knowing the I and its prospect, right? Hmm. What is its prospect? What is its purpose? We exist. We know that we exist. We know that we give meaning to matter. It wouldn't matter if it didn't matter to us. Matter wouldn't matter. And we are the matterer, right? So we exist. We know that we exist. We know that we give meaning to matter. Do we have meaning? It would seem to be reasonable. The very instrument of meaning that gives meaning must have meaning inherently. So what is the meaning? That is Ananda. That is the meaning of consciousness. That is, I should say, its purpose. Jiva Goswami writes in his Sandarbhas that if Ananda is lost, the very purpose of life is lost. Something could exist, but not know. But if something knows, it has to exist. Something could exist and know, but not love. But if something is to love, it has to know and it has to exist. Therefore, chit, knowing, and sat, they follow from ananda. We start there. We will start with ananda. Everything is coming from that. It's not that chit necessarily follows from sat, nor that ananda necessarily follows from sat and chit. But from ananda, from love, knowing must also be there, and being must also be there. So we devotees, this is how we do our, this is the result of our beginning of our exploration. Everything is coming from ananda, from love. Lokavatu lila kaivalyam. The world is coming out of love. And love is the purpose, and love is purposeless. Love knows no reason. Exploring itself, the wonder and the never-ending nature of itself. Krishna's Navanutana. It means like Nitya. He's eternal. We have not a static idea of eternity. Think about it. If something is eternal, we would think there can't be anything new, right? If it's eternal, it has no beginning, it has no end. So eternality must be static. But what Gaudiya Vaishnavism is about is eternal newness. That's a little curious idea. Eternal newness. We're lucky because there's room for us then in the Leela. There's room for us within the dance of the absolute that we call Leela. So this Gaudiya perspective, this is a little bit of, we're speaking a little bit about Gaudiya Vedanta. It's well reasoned and it is very flattering, if you will, to Krishna. Other sampradayas, they like Krishna. They glorify him, but say that he is the source of all avatars, the cowherd. He doesn't have any He's just playing a flute. That's all. We say, it takes power to play. Now you're here playing, right? You've come here to play. Just to let you know, that's what we're here for. But some friends of ours didn't have the power to play. They had to work. Right? They didn't have enough money. They didn't have the power. Right? So amongst all the gods and goddesses in the Hindu pantheon, this one Krishna is different from all the others who have their different weapon. I'm talking about Krishna in Vrindavan. Shyam Sundar Krishna, Braj Krishna, Brajendanandan Krishna, Radhanath, Subal Saka, this Krishna. He's not meditating to attain anything like Shiva. He doesn't have four heads like Brahma, which he's like, that's pretty powerful. Wow, he's a big thinker, right? A big manager, and so on and so forth. They all have a carrier, right? In Braj, who is Krishna's carrier? Krishna is the carrier. Krishna is carrying. He's not the carrier. Krishna is the carrier. Krishna is carrying Sridham. Krishna defeated in a wrestling match with Sridham, has to carry him on his shoulders. This is just play of children, but I mean, you want to make him the god of gods? Where's the power? We say the power is the play, because he only plays, he must be all powerful. Nothing to do but play. Nothing to accomplish in the fullest sense of the term, right? This is what how the Leela speaks to us. So we make the case, and so many sentimental Bengali songs about Krishna, love songs about Krishna. Of course, they're there in the Bhagavad also. Very sophisticated Sanskrit poetry, kavya. Poems about the Godhead. It's kind of a departure, in a sense, from the language of the Upanishads, but it is Shruti Ekam, the cream, the essence of the Shruti, Srimad Bhagavatam. And it culminates in the description of the love life of Krishna. So that Krishna, who's speaking to his friend Arjuna on the Kurukshetra, in Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra, he must be reminded, stepping down there, of what happened to him previously when he went there. He met with the inhabitants of Vrindavan. He told the Gopikas, what is the verse? He said that so many people, they approach me for things. A whole lot of them. And a smaller number who are more intelligent, they approach me to get away from things. Karma, gyan, right? Taking and thinking that by acquiring I'll become more, and those who are wise enough to think that less is more. Less things to think about, more time to think about myself, and that I'm not a thing. What does that mean? The best things in life are not things. And we are of the nature of that, again, consciousness. But Krishna says to the gopis, most people approach me, if they do at all, to take it a step lower, for things. Fewer people, they're smarter, but they approach me to get away from things. A smaller number still, were more noble, They don't want anything. Hmm. Pamikitu China. They don't want anything. Hmm. But they approach me because I should be approached. Um, I give blessings because I'm God. Hmm. They dutifully approach me. Hmm. But the way that you have approached me, that's different. And by that, I'm completely purchased. Hmm. Completely purchased. Those who worship me bridge the gap between myself, the object of worship, and themselves, the worshiper, by the worship, with the way that you have approached me, like an ordinary person falling in love, like a girl falling in love, or like my friends as friends, or like my parents as about my son. Don't do that. I'll tie you up. Don't act like a rascal. Be a good boy. This this is audacious, but I'm attracted to this. Because it's not that much fun sitting up here alone on a throne. It's something to do, uh, but to get close to all of you, and to be captured by them. Now that then I can play, right? Then I can play. What are the leelas of Narayan? I don't know. The leelas of Krishna are so famous. They're capturing our human imagination. We hear the Leela of Krishna, and what do we hear? We hear something that we can completely identify with, because we've had parents, we have friends, we have lovers, and the way Krishna interacts with his lovers, we know something about it. Oh yeah, I know that. He's like that. He's a form of the Godhead that we as emotional beings in this world can bond with every one of practically of our human emotions. What a powerful sadhana this affords us, right? Shankar tells us, do away with your emotions altogether. It's a little difficult, a little dry. In Christianity, well, it's a tough one. Guilt. He died on the cross for you. Maybe there's a little more to it, but but with Krishna, and it's not bad. It's good. And somehow bring people in. Of course, the words of the Prince of Peace are very beautiful themselves. In my country, in the United States, there's a push at this moment by some Christian nationalists who would like to make the United States a theocracy rather than a democracy. They want to put the Ten Commandments in all the schools. I said, why put the Ten Commandments? Jesus didn't speak those. They came from Moses. He came to replace them. He came to replace the Old Testament with the New Testament. The Old Testament was the law book of the Jews, the laws. And Jesus came to bring love. And what was his love? You should put these words in the school. Love your neighbor like yourself. What will that result in? It will result in loving everyone, loving everything, loving God with all your heart. These are his two rules. You should put those in the school. Love your neighbor like yourself and your God with all your heart, whoever your God is. But if you understand, whoever your God is, to love him with all your heart, it has to arise out of loving others as yourself. That will limit what your God can be like in a positive way, because anybody can imagine their God is like this or like that. And my God told me, that I had enemies. The truth is, we don't have any enemies other than ourselves, our conditional self, the false false self, right? So love your neighbor like yourself. Law. Law will be replaced with love. This New Testament, what is the New Testament of Vedanta? Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the New Testament. The final word of the holy books of the Hindus. The final word. And it's all about the fullest face of the Godhead who fully personifies Ananda, out of which everything else is coming. Ananda. So we look at the Gita in this way, and we find, oh, something more is being in the poetry of the Gita, in this verse and that verse. Then you can just. In poetry, you see, when you read poetry, it can make a point, like prose, but the prose, you can't just read it over and over again. But poetry, you can read it over and over again, over and over again. The way just, and you can find more meaning. Like someone writes a song, and it becomes the number one song. And then the author is surprised to find all the meanings of the song, how it speaks to so many people in a positive way, right? He realizes that, oh, I was the conduit. Something that can capture the positively the attention of everyone. So we spoke a little bit about that Gita, and we did it in such a way as to segue into the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, as I began, we are fortunate to be here, and we were celebrating, and we continue to do so over this next week, the fact that we have two books, Bhagavad Gita, its feeling and philosophy in Polish, and the latest book of mine, just published, Circle of Friends. I don't have copies here. My book distribution days are over, which I'm famous for, but I should. They are available, right? Yeah, here's the book distributor over here. We're on the table. So good. And that's a beautiful book. And then we spoke a little bit about that book, and the first night after speaking about the Gita, and the second night we began to explore the book a little bit by way of looking at the preface, the Mangalacharan, which I refer to in modern English as a sacred preface. And we explored what's called the Namaskar verse, the verse that offers the pranam, respect, obeisances to the presiding deities of the book, Krishna and Balaram. We talked about that at some length. So, given that, we should be talking about the second verse of the sacred preface, which is the Vastunadesh shloka or verse, the verse that encapsulates in essence what the book is about. But we're not going to do that. So we're going to deviate from that because we have the holy day of Tirubhav of Shankar, Shiva's Pandit. Shiva's Pandit ki jai, Panchatattva ki jai, Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam, Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam, Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. But we're fortunate that by speaking about Srivasa Thakur, we'll be able to enter a little bit into Circle of Friends as well, because he has a significant role to play in Krishna's Braja Leela as a coward friend. It is thought in the Gaudiya Vaishnava community that the principal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are all members of Krishna's playful leelas in Vrindavan. The reason that they came to this conclusion is because they understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very extraordinary, and he was exhibiting a very large, mountainous measure of prema, of love for Krishna, and giving it to others just by glancing at them at times. They thought he must be an avatar. They're living in a Puranic, perspective. These were their history books, their science books. These were the law books, the sacred texts of the Hindus. They weren't part of the modern world and its philosophy that by this time had been unhinged from theology. You understand? A certain history in European history, the Catholic Church was the capital. Rome, I guess, was the capital of Europe, and all the pagans had been subjugated, and Christianity, the one true religion, the one miracle was outselling every other miracle of the pagan shamans and so on and so forth. But he rose from the dead, it said, right? This was a powerful story. Gradually, it was theologized about and so forth, and faith in the one book was central to every other thought about how things should be done. It had to be in consideration of that book. But gradually, then, thinking it began to unhinge itself from revelation. In other words, there's thinking about revelation. What is the meaning? What is the significance of these sacred texts that speak to us in parables and in poetry? They're difficult to understand, to access. They're talking to us about something that again, as I said earlier, is beyond words, beyond thought. They're using a different method to speak about reality than just logic, just math, for example. But it's a little hard to grasp. To understand it, you have to enter into it, you have to apply yourself, and so forth. And that's a challenge. To follow the sacred, the revelation. This is the greatest journey. You want to go on an adventure that requires some courage and challenge yourself. That is what sadhana is about. Spiritual practice. It's a great challenge, and it's very objective. You have to separate yourself from your feelings. To some extent, right? You know, what are the facts? I think and I feel, but what does Shastra say? Oh, well, we use that eye, Shastra Chakshu, the eye of revelation. We have to use our eyes too, and our ears to hear it, to read it, and our mind to reflect on it and its implications, and that's what we call theology. When we think and our thinking is unhinged from revelation, that's what we call philosophy. And where is that taking us? Sartre? Where do we end up? Camus? Where do we end up there? Modern philosophy is now analytic, philosophy based largely on facts provided for us by science, the objective perspective, right? Put on a white coat now. To do science, you have to put on a white coat. Do away with the colors. That's what it means. Separate your feelings, just whatever it says, what the data says. Of course, unless you're being paid to come up with some data. that can you just tweak it a little bit? We've got a lot of cigarettes to sell here. So a spot on a white cloth, right? You don't want to have a spot on your white cloth. But we're humans. Scientists are humans first, scientists second, right? Can't get away from those. It's difficult to separate oneself entirely from those feelings. We tell them you don't have to. You can use your feelings, apply them in relation to Krishna, right? Science may say one thing, but if it says something that would bring your family harm, then you'll side with your family, something like that. So make Krishna the center of your love life, of your emotional life, right? So we also wear white, or many of you are wearing white. We put on a dress, if you will, and enter the laboratory of exploring the inner landscape, But it's a great challenge, but it's very objective. The life of a sadhaka is thought to be, by those who have not heard the challenge really, who have dismissed the books, like those books that I don't understand that, the poetry, what is the meaning? And these Vedas, like one is saying this, another is saying that, and they seem to make Shiva is the supreme. No, Krishna is this. That must be, well, obviously that the Brahmins were political, and they created these books to subjugate the people, and so on. Never mind that the Dharma Shastras punish the Brahmins more than anybody else for doing the same, committing the same sin, because they should know better. If they would not have been wise to write the books like that if it was their purpose. So we have responses to this, but it takes a certain kind of intellect to be interested in this procedure, this adventure, if you will. You have to have a measure of sattvic intelligence. There are people that are far more intelligent than me, certainly, but I have sattvic intelligence. Rajasic intelligence is of a different quality. When the Rajasic intelligence, we would try to do so many things. We try to make the world better, make our life better, invent new things, conquer the world, rise up. I'm not that interested in that. Neither are you. Tamasic intelligence, well, that's very good. Just how to please my senses. No work. You want no work, no pain, and all gain. Just take intoxication for no pain, just take it. Of course, you have to keep taking it, but and Rajagun is no pain, no gain. Right? And sattva means the pain is the gain. The pain is the gain. To give is to receive. So a little sattvic intelligence does not allow one to be comfortable in a world that does not endure. It does not make sense. I cannot relate to that. So such persons become predisposed towards the message of the sacred text. And when we land upon them, when we're confronted with them, we find them. We found something that a secret book that speaks to us, and we think everybody should be interested in this. Of course, everybody's not, to our disappointment. We find we have to live with a small group of people that are different than everybody else and weird. Like Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj like to give the example. If you go into your, if if you if you were to walk out here and saw a UFO land and some aliens came out and said, "Oh, whatever," some aliens, and then you ran over to the next building where everybody's staying and said, "You got to come and see that there are aliens over here." And they said, "Home too." They're living in the back. They're in the backyard. Of course, then everybody gets here. There's no aliens. So you're in real jam now. But you saw them. You saw them, and you cannot give that up. You know, you got to get a glimpse. So you become, a little unpopular in your among your circle of friends. Then you have to do some deep research. Anybody else ever see this? Anyway, we find that there's actually a club of UFO, a cult of UFO seers. You have to, then you join them, right? Then you compare notes, do the research. How can you see? If he wants us to see, then we will see. Otherwise not, on his terms. So this revelation, it's different. It speaks about a different way of knowing and a different kind of knowing, a comprehensive knowing, the kind of knowing upon which attaining one feels there's no more that I need to know. I know myself. I know what I am. Jiva Swarupoi, Krishna Nityadasa. That's who I am. I know it. It's not just a verse that I remembered to tell somebody else so they would think I was more important because I knew more than them. I know it. I've understood it. I've realized the Sambandha Gyan. So that is now all my actions are arising out of what I know. That is bhakti sadhana. This is a very exciting life. And it's very objective because, as I say, it's you put the it's a lifestyle. It's not something you just do in the laboratory, but you do it all the time. What did Mahaprabhu say? Kirtaniya Sadahari. Smartavyam Satatam Vishnu Vismartavyam Jatichit. Always remember him, never forget him. That is the essence of sadhana. Rupa Goswami says, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Always forget him, never forget it, never remember. So the mind, even we have to be in the world, participate in the world. We learn how to use the world differently. Kamosmi, Bharatarshava. Kamosmi, Krishna says. The world is driven by kama, by the lust for things. He says, that can be done properly, and I am that. Kamosmi. If it's done according to Dharma, there's a way to work with our material conditioning, which is the shadow of love, to work with that in the way that it will bring us to the full face of Ananda in due course. And bhakti is well, see how user friendly it is. You can have friends in bhakti. That means in yoga you can't have friends. So read about it in the Gita, 6th chapter. You got to sit alone, not too high, not too low. Right? You cannot be in the vicinity of the ups and downs of material life. Sama, equanimity must be there. Alone. This is the yoga, Astanga yoga. What about Gyanmarg? Nope, no friends. One of the prominent angas of Gyan, Mumukshatra, is yearning for liberation, and Vairagya. Vairagya means no friends. Detachment. The cultivation of detachment. Vairagya is not an anga of bhakti. It's a byproduct of bhakti. What is the difference between Gyan and Bhakti? In Gyan, we have to give up friends. You have to be alone. Hmm? Vairag means detachment. Hmm? In Bhakti, we have to get friends. Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Hoy. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Make a connection with sadhus. Hmm. Hmm. So in the company of in Sankirtan, this was the method to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's madness. Sankirtan. It is a type of meditation. Satyam param dhimahi. It's in the plural. This is the first verse of Bhagavatam. It concludes Satyam param dhimahi. Dhimahi. It's in the plural. We say he's talking about Sankirtan, and of course the book ends. The last verse of the Bhagavatam. I forget the Sanskrit, but it says it is an advocacy. Do Sankirtan. Hmm? Together. So there's strength in numbers. In bhakti, you can have friends. You cannot be married in yoga. I mean, if I'm talking about the classical text, Yoga Sutra. There's not a place for that. Why? Because brahmacharya is one of the, amongst the yamas and niyamas, brahmacharya is one. Now, you can make a fanciful interpretation of what it means, brahmacharya, but it literally means you, what it means. It literally means what frightened all the all the gods, right? When Bhishma took a vow of brahmacharya. My God. And he's Bhishma. I mean, he's a king, and he's a Kshatriya. This is huge. Right? We marry and have a family to largely people to get some power, right? Emotional power. You feel stronger. Mm-hmm. Young man, as soon as he gets a young lady who makes him feel that he's worth something, he feels he's capable of functioning much better in the world. Get some self-esteem from that also. Mm-hmm. I was married as a young person too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so some power from that and have children. This is how life used to be. Let's have some kids. We need someone to milk the cow. Right. Right. And we need someone else to till the field. Big family. And that's what happens when you share intimacy with your partner. That's what happens. So okay, we deal with it. And it's power, right? Things have changed a lot, and not always for the better, right? In industrial society. I gave this example the other day, it just comes to my mind for a moment. If you drive down the street in Warsaw, the capital of Poland, right? And you get a flat tire. Will anyone stop? You're on the highway, you pull over, it's just going flat tire. Nobody thinks twice about it. In the village, if you get a flat tire, it's an event. Everybody comes out. Oh, we got a flat tire. Yeah, bring the tools. Which tire is it? Everybody's watching. How's it going to pump up? And when it's finished, hey, well, it's time for lunch. Would you come over? Stay, have lunch. This is the village life. Is it smaller or is it bigger? Small is beautiful. This is Vrindavan. I said earlier, the physical world is very small. The mental world is much bigger. The intellectual world, Brahmalok, it's even bigger. With intelligence, we can reason about our thoughts. There's a hierarchy given in the Gita from the objects of the senses, to the mind, to the intelligent, to you. end, I think, of the fourth chapter. And you is categorically different than the other three. They're all part of the psychic and physical dimensions of the world. Biopsychological complex. And then there's you of a different category, right? So you are bigger than the whole world. Yeah. Prem Das asked me, why is it that in other universes, Brahma has 1,000 heads? Why does he have 100 heads, 1,000 heads? This is the story in the scripture. You know the story? Brahma went to Dwarka, asked for something. I can't remember the details. What happened? Krishna, Brahma came to the door, and Dwarka, Krishna's a prince there. And the prince said, Brahma said, I'd like to speak to Krishna. Okay. So the doorman said, Krishna, Brahma's here. And Krishna said, oh, yeah, sure. Ask which Brahma it is. So he said, which Brahma are you? He said, what are you talking about? And how many people have 4 heads? I mean, it's me, it's Brahma. And so then when he came in, he said, he asked what he came to ask and so forth. And then he said, I have another question. The doorman asked me, which Brahma? What kind of question is that? And Krishna said, oh, and he manifested other universes with Brahmas, with 10 heads, with 100 heads, with 1,000 heads. So why do these other Brahmas have 1,000 heads? That's not the right question. You didn't understand what was going on there. You don't understand what the whole purport is, what's being said. Don't get caught up in the details. What's the essence? It's saying Brahma is the biggest person in the world. He's the big, as far as working in the world goes, to acquire things. This is Brahma. If you in the karma marg, which is governed by Rajaguna, Pravritti marg, or acquisition, driven by the idea that by acquiring, I'll become more, I'll become complete. I feel incomplete. By adding things on, I'll be more complete. By improving my material situation, I'll be more complete. Well, the essence of the full measure of this is to become a Brahma. Because in the karma marg, with the varnashram marg, it said that if you 100 lifetimes perfectly execute the varnashram dharma, wow, that's right. You goes right, Mataji. She says, wow, you can get 4 heads. I don't know if you can be a Brahma. It's a big position. It's the biggest position you can get in the world. And so what is Krishna telling Brahma? He's saying, what I'm telling you here is that the biggest position that you could attain in the world is small. It's small. That's the message. You can go home with that and stop worrying about how many heads the other Brahmas have, or whether there even are other universes. It doesn't matter. You're in this one, and where do you want to go? Not to the top, not to the bottom, not in the middle, but from the middle, from Bharatvarsha, from the Bhumandala, go beyond. Abrahma Bhuvanaloka, Punar Avartina Arjuna. Mam Upecha tu Konteya, Punar Janmana Vidyate. Punar Janmana, this is the difference. There are many planets, he says, Krishna in the Gita to Arjuna, all the way up to Brahmaloka. But everyone has to die there. Everyone has to come back. But my planet, Punar Janmana, you understand? Punar again, Janma, no, not taking birth again. Mamu Petita Kunteya, Punar Janmana Vidite. Yad Gatva, going there. Yad Gatva, what is the verse? Yad Gatva Hmm? Nivartante. Na nivartante. Yad gatva na nivartante. Twice in the Gita, Krishna says that. Yes. Going there, one never returns. Going there, one never returns. This is how Vedanta Sutra ends. And anabritihi shabdat. Anabritihi shabdat. This is what the shabda, the sound says. This is what it's about. The place of no return. The place of no return. Go there. Hmm? That means eternal. Hmm? Enough with these temporary things, these dreamlike things that are here today and gone tomorrow. Hmm? I made effort for nothing. Hmm? Sand castle only, and the water comes. Hmm? Only castles burning. Hmm? So find someone who's turning. Hmm? Sing a song, and you will come around. Hmm? Turning away from the temporary. Hmm? Then a good sadhu. Then you can go in another direction. Hold hands and go there. The sages of Dandakaranya, they meditated on Gopal mantra with a desire to have a romantic life with God. And they were smart people. Sounds odd, but this is the conclusion they came to. Ramchandra came through the forest and they thought, that's him. He said, no, not me. I've taken a vow to have only one wife. You have to wait another yuga. Meditate just for one more yuga. Patience is required, and it's a virtue. Meditate for one more yuga. Then I will come. Then I will accept you. Right? That is Krishna. Braja Balaba. That is Krishna. They went in a group. This is my point. They all entered into Goloka in a group. They went together, the whole group. So let's go together. This is my message to you. I love you. I ask one thing of you, that you love me. Is that hard? Prabhupada wanted that his own mission, he said, it would be run by this one guiding principle. Two things, two guiding principles. The whole of the society, he said, it should be run by love and trust. That's all. So many resolutions, so many resolutions. Because there's not any love and trust. If love and trust break down, then you have to make laws. At least we won't fight. At least we'll agree to, okay, this is the law. If you love someone, let's say you get a roommate, okay, then you find out he likes to stay up late and he likes to get up early and he turns on the radio and it's a problem. So in order to salvage the whole thing, you make some rules that you both agree with and you put them on the wall. Okay, we will stay together. This is the breakdown of love. Law is the breakdown of love. As much as there's law, love is absent. As much as there's love, law is absent. But you have to understand these things. Don't run out of here with take it the wrong way. Right? There are things that are favorable for bhakti, and there are things that are unfavorable for bhakti. Okay, let us look at it like that. Those are our laws. If it's favorable for bhakti, I will accept it. If it's unfavorable for bhakti, I will reject it. Those are your laws. That's your moral compass there. This is the New Testament. So many thoughts. Mm. You're bringing out so many thoughts. But we had to turn to Srivasa Thakur. Mm. Mm. We find him in the pages of Circle of Friends. He is a member of the Panchatattva, the fivefold feature of the Absolute that is mm, in um, essential for the dispensation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's um, teaching. And he has been identified by the Gaudiyas, and this was a point that I was making, um, as a member of Krishna's Braja Leela. These Gaudiya people in West Bengal, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibit the ecstasy of praying, and as I said earlier, looking at people and they would get praying, they thought from a Puranic perspective, they had a Puranic worldview. Remember I was saying this. The Puranas were their law books, their history books. They were living in that world. When Europe came, they tried to portray the Indians, Hindus, as being uncivilized and, what do you call that? Imperialism, colonialism, and so forth. And they didn't really understand the texts of the Hindus. They intimidated them and so forth. Sure, there's other ways of looking at the world. Let's take the Copernican revolution. If the Puranas give a view that the Earth is the center and the planets are orbiting around that, we had better correct them, right? Because Copernicus, I don't think, did he lose his head? Or was that Galileo? Yeah. Takes time for new ideas to find their way. Be careful. If you're a revolutionary thinker, you could lose your head. But hey, we can prove it. So these heathens, they have seen some. We have to tell. You have to educate them. They obviously don't know what they're talking about. Well, there's a different ways of looking at things. That's a way of looking at things. That everything is moving around the sun. It can be demonstrated. It's accurate. But another way of looking at it is everything's moving around the earth because that's where everything's really happening. You've got a big apple in my country. And they think everything's happening in New York. It's not, but they think that's where it's happening. They go to New York and think, I'm here now. I'm going to find it because this is where everything happens here. This is the big apple, the whole apple, not just a bite. I was sitting with Prabhupada once in the building we acquired for him in Manhattan was 11 stories, and he had a room on the 11th floor, and I was a young person, young adult, and he had just given me sannyas earlier in the year. I was 25 years old. I was sitting with Prabhupada alone, and he said to me, "Have you seen the New York women?" I think, what is he? He just said, what is he asking me that for? And I didn't say anything, and he just said, "Have you seen the New York women? They are so beautiful." And then he said, "And these skyscrapers, he used to call them skyscrapers, skyscraper, all of them so big, they are all going up, because of the beauty of these women. They're making the whole thing go," he said. He said, he's saying that women are attractive, men are chasing the attraction, and they're building the cities. Of course, women are building them up too, but he, he had a particular perspective from his cultural background and so forth. Right? It's not necessarily bad. It may not work in our culture and society, but it did in times gone by. So everything has to be looked at very broadly and very thoughtfully before we condemn the past altogether, because we will be condemned with our ideas now that are just the cutting edge and the absolute truth and so forth and so on. And such is the nature of this relative world, where everything will change in a moment. Right? In a moment, I hope it doesn't happen. The United States would be a dictatorship. Goodness, couldn't have imagined. Things change. So he said, oh, the men are chasing the women, and the buildings are going up because of the attraction between the two. He said, this is Vishnu Maya. So how he was reading, this is Vishnu Maya. Isn't it wonderful? Extraordinary how it works. Goodness. Parikshit Maharaj asked a similar question of the Raj, or of the sage Sukadev. Tell me about material nature, because it's one of the Shaktis of Bhagavan. He had a curiosity. So Prabhupada was just amazed. And everyone is, the men are working so hard. This is the idea, because of Vishnu Maya. So New York, the Big Apple, right? Everyone thinks it's all happening there. How do we get there?
The earth is in the middle instead of
Right. So the Orientalists, they wanted to educate the Hindus and so forth, but it's a matter of perspective. You can say the earth is the center, because from here everything is going on. What does it mean everything is going on? Because even in the Hindu scriptures, these other planets are popular. There are other dimensions, lokas, different lokas, dimensions, different dimensions. But the earth is the most important one, because it is here in the Bhumandal, you have heaven and you have hell. Do heaven and hell exist? Well, I've experienced both. I think you have too, right? And we see that neither one lasts. Thankfully, not to hell. Unfortunately, not to heaven, we can say, but it's a fact. Our heaven today will be our hell tomorrow. In fact, I found a Prince Charming, and he turned into a couch potato. Goodness. It happens, right? This is the nature of the world. So it's better than heaven or the hell, because we have both things. We can understand the limitations of both, and go beyond both. Here, the avatar of Krishna has come, the avatar of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This one, so many avatars. The Vedas have been manifest. Here, from here, you can go to the Paravyama. There's no motive in heaven. Things are too good. So we could go on about it, but there's ways of thinking. The earth is the center. And and they also had a different worldview, right? That transcendence is the goal. Human life is not everything. So the Puranic worldview it's a different world. After all, we're all living in one place. We're all living in the theater of consciousness. We're just watching different movies. That's all. We're all is there anything outside of consciousness? Not that I know of. Not that you know of either. So consciousness is the bottom line. Not even time, not even space. Consciousness. Everything in consciousness. And then whatever else we seem to see, which causes us to be forgetful of it, that we're in the theater. It's just a movie, a different movie. We forgot we were in the theater. We forgot We were the theater. Mm. Mm. So to go in and see, oh, what is the full nature of consciousness? These are what the texts were about, right? This is what the people were living for this. And they were producing so many sadhus, right? So many saintly persons. Life was shorter. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was amongst us for 48 years. That's a short life. How rich it was. In Jagannath Puri, he lived in a room. Have you been to Jagannath Puri? Raise your hand. Have you seen the Gambhira? How big is it? Very small, like 8 by 8, something maybe smaller. He lived in that room. What big ideas he had in there. He wasn't thinking he needed an extra couch or something. Something. How big was his ideas, his experience? Consume the whole world. It could consume the whole world, right? It said that the astrologer told Prabhupada, his parents, that he can build a house the whole world can live in. We're living in that world. Yeah. Properly understood. We're living in that world. So they thought they're living in the Puranic worldview. They saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They thought he must be an avatar because he's like so godly. He must be God himself, practically. And then they thought, well, what kind of avatar would he be? Well, he's very interested in praying. He's preoccupied with praying, Krishna praying. Premamayi, Prema Madhurya, Lila Madhurya. This is what he's preoccupied with. Prema Madhurya, Lila Madhurya. And Venu Madhurya he's preoccupied with. And the Rupa Madhurya, the sweet form of Krishna, the sweet flute of Krishna, the sweet leelas of Krishna, the sweet prema of Krishna. And this is not of interest to any other avatar. Not even Narayan is interested in these things. This is exclusive to Krishna. He must be Krishna. He's giving the Krishna prema. Maybe he's Krishna, they thought. Could it be? Another avatar? And he's giving such power and energy to us to perform the Yuga Dharma, Nam Sankirtan, the greatest champion of Nam Sankirtan, and getting the most results. He must be Yuga Avatar. So they began to reason like this. But then it was a hesitation, a wise hesitation on their part. What is that? If he is Krishna, he would not be alone. What is another name for Krishna? Bhakta Vatsala. Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala? Then you cannot have Krishna without bhaktas. Give me another name of Krishna. That's not a good one. You have said the best of the Yadavas. Shodanandan. Yadavas, okay. I mean, he's connected. He has a family. The Yadavas. Yeah. These are Yashodananda. So there must be Yashoda. If there's Yashodanandan, if Krishna is Yashodanandan, then there must be Yashoda. The point is that Krishna is not alone. This is Veda Veda. The love of God and God. The object of love and the love, they are one and different at the same time. The devotee is the vessel of love, the personification of that love, and Krishna is the object of that love. You have to have the two to have love, but the two are one. Because if you say, I love you, You don't know anything about love, because in love there are no two. The two become one. You and I become we. It's a dynamic duo, if you will. Radha and Krishna, they're one and different at the same time. This is Sachin Tibet. So they reasoned, if Mahaprabhu, if Vishwambar Mishra, Nimai Pandit is Krishna, where are his associates? And then they realized, it's us. We are his associates. We are in another Leela. Sadhaka Siddha Bhumi, in a land Bhumi where sadhakas are playing the role in the Leela drama of sadhakas, showing the way to attain prema. And so wise persons like Kavi Karnapur said, let's make a list here. Who's who? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. Nitai is Balaram. Okay. Gadadhar, he must, and they give so many reasons, he must be Radha. And so on and so forth, right? And amongst them, of course, Srivasa Thakur. And it said, Kavi Karnapur said, he's Narada. The epitome of bhakti. I mean, Narada wrote Narada Bhakti Sutras, the perfect devotee, Narada Pancharatra, Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti. Is that verse? Anyabhilashita sunyam gyan karmade anavritam. Anukulena Krishna Anushilan Bhakti Rutam is derived from Narada's verse. Tatparat Venanirmalam Mishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. Sarvopadi Venir Muktam Tatparat Venanirmalam. Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. This is bhakti. So he reasoned like this. But Narada, he's a player in Goloka, but he's typically not in Braj. You find him in Dwarka, Hastinapura, Mathura, but rarely coming to Braj, right? But there's a Brahmin in Braj. He's a Brahmin, Nard. Sometimes he's called in English a farcical Brahmin. He's a little bit of a prankster, Nard. You know how he went and told Kamsa, I think the one who's going to kill you has already appeared. So Rupa Goswami has identified that Nard is in Sakyarasa. Now, there are different types of Sakyarasa, but from a broad perspective, we have the city metropolitan friends of Krishna, and we have the rural friends of Krishna. Rural being the Braj, his cowherd friends. So Narada is not a cowherd. Draupadi is not a cowherd. She's in Sakyarasa. Arjuna is not a cowherd. He's a Kshatriya. But these are friends of Krishna in the metropolitan type. It's not as intimate, but it's beautiful, beautiful Sakyarasa. And we talked about this at length the other day, right? Talking about the Gita and friendship, how it's found in the Gita. In Gita, the only verse in Gita that expresses overtly bhakti rasa, Hey Krishna, hey Yadava, hey Saketi, is Sakyarasa. You know it. It's Arjuna. Oh, I laid on the same bed with you. I called you by these names, so familiar names that had a derogatory context in the way I used them, as sometimes will criticize our friends and so forth. I did that. Now I see that you are the God of gods. It was inappropriate on my part, right? Sakyarasa in Bhagavad Gita is expressed there by Arjuna. And through Sakyarasa, we have the Bhagavad Gita. It's given us, right? Bhakto Sime Sakacheti. The secret is told by Krishna to Arjuna because he's his friend and devotee. Friend means devotee. Right? So, like I said, sages of Dandakaranya, they wanted to have romantic love with Krishna in the context of devotion. Right? So they were devotees, and the friendship came out of their devotion. That means that their love was wise kind of love, not ordinary, not sadharani, ordinary love. So Narada Muni, he's a Brahmin, but he's a Brahmin who exemplifies Vaidhi Bhakti, and Krishna in Vrindavan goes to Mathura and Dwarka, and he looks a little bit differently there. In fact, in Dwarka, he shows oftentimes 4 arms. As much as Radharani rules over Vrindavan, he can't show 4 arms. If he tried, her love will not allow them to come out. This is again Beda Bed. You understand? The love is causing Bhagawan to appear in a certain way. There are parameters as to what constitutes love. They're large, but there are parameters. Within those parameters, as you develop that love, Krishna will appear a little different to his friends than he does to his lovers, a little different to his mother, his parents. Features will stand out. The features that are there all the time will stand out to certain rasas more than others, right? But in Vrindavan, there's a Brahmin who's farcical. What is his name? Madhumangala. Madhumangala. He is a certain type of Saka, Priyanarma Saka, a friend who's sympathetic to Krishna's romantic life and offers him a shoulder to cry on in his romantic ups and downs, right? Madhumangala. He's a Brahmin. And just as Krishna goes to Mathura and Dwarka, his associates in Braj go with him. We said that in Vrindavan, Krishna doesn't have a carrier. Krishna is the carrier. He carries Sudama, Sridham, on his back. But in Dwarka, Krishna has a carrier. What is his name? Garuda. Garuda. And Sanatana Goswami tells us in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that Garuda is the expansion of Sridham for Leela in Dwarka. This is reversed. Now he becomes the carrier. So the farcical Brahmin of Vrindavan, who is the expansion of himself for Vaidhi Bhakti, that is Narada. And Jiva Goswami has pointed this out in Gopal Champu. You understand? So Srivasa Thakur, we have now located him in the Braja Leela. He's the expansion of Madhumangala. This is our theological reasoning. Kavi Karnapur didn't say that. He didn't go that far, but I'm taking you that far. And I'm giving you some support for this. There's much more support for this that can be given, and I'll cite some of it for you going forward. And I'll try to make it quick because we've been talking for a long time. All right? But you seem captured. That's the whole strategy here. Not allow you to think. If I can stop you from just thinking, then your heart, I can go inside and put something in there that will stay, stick, and enable you to understand things better in the future, assist you like a favorable wind, right? So this Srivasa Thakur, he appeared earlier than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was probably about 30 years old at the time as an elder. So the elders came before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his father, his mother, elders like Advaita, Srivas. They were great Vaishnavas. They were performing Nam Sankirtan. The house of Srivasa Thakur was a famous place for kirtan. People would object because they would chant all night long, keep them awake and so forth. And not everybody in Navadvip was embracing the Yuga Dharma. Hardly was that the case. They were a minority group at the time. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his appearance. He turned into a Vaishnava and gave so much courage to everybody in the community, the Vaishnavas. And an example of that, of course, is in the house of Srivasa Thakur, where Kirtan was going on. Even Mahaprabhu wasn't personally present at the time. Chand Kazi's men came and broke the drum because the Hindus complained. We don't blame the Muslims entirely. The Hindus complained about Srivasa Thakur, keeping us up at night, chanting the name of Krishna. They're singing the name of Krishna out loud, and unqualified people are hearing it. Will take the power out of the name, they thought. They weren't very well educated in the theology. Nam Dharma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give the Nam Dharma for Kali Yuga and all the philosophy and theology that underlies that, which is, if that is in place, it will give us capacity to chant the name effectively, make progress. So they broke the drum. They broke the drum, and Mahaprabhu was told they broke the drum. So Mahaprabhu then went with 100,000. See how the group had swelled by torchlight at night in Sankirtan to the house of the Chand Kazi, right? They were a little bit rowdy. They were challenging the Muslim ruler, and he was a pretty big guy, Chand Kazi, and powerful, influential. They were a minority. It was a revolution. Of course, the Chand Kazi came to the door, and he had a discourse with Mahaprabhu. He said, "I'd like to speak to you privately." Mahaprabhu said, "These people and I are one. My devotees and I are one. We don't know what is private. There's no difference between our private and public life. That is bhakti. There's no difference. And there's no difference between me and my devotees. So whatever you want to say to me, you say it before all of them." And then he said, "Last night I had a dream. And in the dream, a beast with the head of a lion and the hands of a man jumped on my chest, tore open my pajamas." He said, "I will tear your heart out. I'll rip your heart out if you ever touch that drum again. It's my favorite instrument." And then he opened his kurta, and everyone looked. And there were the scratch marks of Narasimha. Narasimha Bhagavan ki jai. And Srivasa Thakur was especially stunned because in his house at Srivasa Thakur, he worshipped the deity of Narasimha. Who is the deity in the house of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan? The pujari for whom is Madhumangala. Madhumangala lives in the house of Krishna. Once the Prakat Leela, when Krishna started to herd cows and begin his romantic life, Madhumangala came to Vrindavan, then he was adopted, lived in the house of Nanda Maharaj, and he's the pujari of Nrsimha Bhagavan. The mission at this time was just getting started, but it was not complete by any means, because one figure was missing in the group. One person. Who was that? Nityanandaram ki jai. So Nitai Chand came then. Then all the pieces are in place now. But he came, and Mahaprabhu had a dream. Some fellow came in a dream, and he was riding a chariot with a flag, emblem of the tal fruit. Tal fruit, tal palm. You can make liquor from that. Balaram likes that. He's prone to such enjoyment. And this person said, Nimai Pandit, come out. He could understand. This Balaram has come in the form of this person, Nityanandaram. Hmm? That's the same flag on Balaram's chariot, the tal fruit, tal palm. You know the slaying of Denakasur, all the tall fruits. Forget about the intoxication part, that's a little hard to understand, but Balaram slayed Perlambasura, and all the tall fruits fell, and all the fruits became available to everyone. And this Leela occurs at the beginning, in the midst, should say, of Krishna's Poganda, boyhood Leela, when some of his adolescence is starting to manifest, even in his boyhood. But during his boyhood, Balaram becomes very prominent during the Poganda aspect of his Leela, much more prominent than he does in his, Kumar Leela. And this is one of the ways in which it's like a coming out of Balaram. He hadn't dealt with any demons, although he was thought to be protecting his brother all the time. So the boy said, "What have you done?" Mother Soda keeps saying you're supposed to protect him, but we never see anything. Rama, Rama, Mahabaho, you have big arms. What have you done with them? Nothing. They pinched his ego. Oh, so they said, and we're smelling these tall fruits. They're so delicious. We'd like to taste them. Won't you lead us there? There's a demon there. That's a beautiful Leela. We've written about that at great length in Circle of Friends. But this Balaram, in form of Nityananda Prabhu, he comes into the Gaur Leela. Now, we have the two presiding deities of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, Gaur Nityananda. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito, Gauradai Pushpavanto, Chitro Samdo Tamonuda. Yes, and Mahaprabhu woke, told his devotees, I had a dream last night. A great person has arrived in Navadvip. Srivasa, Haridas, go and find him. They searched throughout Vrindavan. They could not, Navadvip, they could not find him. They came back. We could not find a great person anywhere. Mahaprabhu said, come with me. I'll take you. He went to the house of Nandanacharya, which was a hiding place. Once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hid there, Advaita hid there, something about that place, Nandanacharya's house. And there Nityananda was hiding, but he was hiding in full sight. Hidden in full sight, like the nose on your face. It's there, but you cannot see it. Everyone can see it, but you cannot see it. And everyone only has two eyes, you have two eyes, but you cannot see it. Like the nose on your face. There he was. Not dressed like an important person, but like an avadut. An avadut means like a little odd, not like a great person, like maybe he's crazy. They might have seen him on the porch, but that couldn't be him. And they moved on. Mahaprabhu took him right there. And then he began to demonstrate, which he did repeatedly throughout the Leela. The Nityananda Prabhu, don't neglect him. Don't neglect him. Radha Krishna Without Nityananda Prabhu, there's no rasa to be attained. Goes through him, right? And then at that time, he said that he really wanted to drill this point into Srivasa Thakura. And he said, Srivasa, Panditji, chant a verse. Well, he chanted a verse. What verse did he chant? Parapisa, Nata Barabapu, Karnayo Karnikaram, this verse, famous verse. Vibradvasa, Kanaka Kapisham, Vaijayantim Chamalam. Randhran Venur Adhara, Sudaya Purayan, Gopa Brindaya. Brindaranyam Swapadaramanam, Prabhishad Gita Giti. I'll read the translation. My translation. Crowned with a peacock feather, adorned with a karnikara flower behind his ear, wrapped in reddish gold garment and garlanded with a wreath of 5 different forest flowers stretching down to his knees. Krishna, his form, that of the best of dancers, filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, surrounded by his cowherd friends, singing his praise, leaving a path to follow his footprints, beautified the forest. Shri Krishna ki jai. Now, point here is what? Srivasa chose this verse. He could have chosen any number of verses. He chose this verse. It's a verse from the Venu Gita. Venu Gita is a chapter of the Bhagavatam where the gopis are singing about the virtues of Krishna's flute, or the power, the influence of Krishna's flute over them. Before the gopis themselves begin to speak, this verse is cited, spoken by Sukadeva Goswami in Gopi Bhav. So it kind of encapsulates the nature of what's going to be spoken in some 20-some verses of the chapter. And of course, it's describing Krishna entering the forest with Gopa Vrindaya, with his friends. That Balaram is included in the verse by the word Gopa, the group of Gopas. Beautiful description of Krishna, very attractive, charming, with his flute, right? And what else is said here? Randran Venu Adhara Sudaya Parayam. So he filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips. He entered the forest with his friends, group of friends, who were singing his praise. So these cowherd boys, you see, they are very expert at composing songs about cows and cow herding. They're very expert. But here, this verse is spoken by Sukadev in Gopi Bhav. Why did he choose this verse? Because in this verse, Krishna is mentioned, and the cowherd boys are mentioned, and their singing is mentioned. And the boys that were singing at this time, these were a certain type of boys, Priyanarmas, the type of friends of Krishna who are sympathetic to and participate in his romantic life. So what kind of songs were they singing in praise of Krishna? They were singing songs in praise of Krishna that covertly, through the poetry, spoke about his romantic life, that only those who had adhikar would understand. He would have an ordinary understanding, Krishna is great, whatever the other friends, but the gopis could hear. They're praising Krishna in terms of his, covertly, his romantic life. This song, this poem, this verse, Srivasa Thakur sung. We could say this is a verse of Gopi Bhav. He must be Gopi. But these verses like this and several other from Venu Gita, those in Sakyarasa would say, just see. Like 2 verses down, the gopis will say, the perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram and their friends entering the forest with their cows. The gopis will say, just see. Even the gopis say that this is the best. What better authority do you want? You say the gopis are the highest. They're saying this is the best. And we're in that picture. We're in that picture with Krishna and Balaram. This is the beauty of Bhav, right? And they turn it into the best. So Srivasa Thakur is singing this in the mood of a Narmasaka, Madhumangala, in this mood, right? Later on, one day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the house of Srivasa Thakur. And Srivasa Thakur was doing the puja to Nrsingadev. Closed the door of the temple room, the altar. He was performing the worship very dutifully. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and said, called for him. And Srivasa was thinking, let him wait. I'm doing the puja, for God's sake. Don't be impatient. I'm doing the puja. Right? Mahaprabhu started banging on the door. Open the door. Shiva starts shaking. And they said, he who you are worshiping is standing outside the door. Open the door. So he opened the door, and Mahaprabhu manifested himself as Nrsinga. And he said, I am the Shinga. Chant a verse. I give blessings like I did to Prahlad. Chant it, say something. Say something in praise. What does Srivasa say? I'll tell you. He said, Namujite Brahma Buse Taridambaraya Gunjamatanksha Puripichilasam Mukhaya Banya Sraje Kabula Vetra Bishana Benu Lakshma Srije Nirupade Pashupangajaya. This is a very beautiful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, verse 1. After the Brahma Vimohan Leela, after Brahma, who was brought to Vrindavan by Krishna to understand more about his ideal of Sakyarasa by acquainting him with the Vishayalambana, the vessels of that Sakyabhava in the form of the cowherd friends, and the Ashrayalambana, the object of love in the form of Krishna, Gopal Krishna, not Krishna like this, like Gyan Mudra, but Krishna like this, taking food, putting in his mouth, putting it in somebody else's mouth, taking food, what is this? What kind of, because at the dawn of creation, Krishna showed himself to Brahma and gave him mantra, gave him the Gopal mantra. He said, and we will bond as friends, Sakyam. It took some time. Then Krishna thought, by sadhana, now he's ready. I'll bring him to the Braja Leela. And there he saw Krishna, his guru. He thought, maybe it's an imposter. Looks like Krishna. Oh, he's acting with these boys like this. This is not, this is rather uncivilized for my guru to act like this. So he started to wonder. He thought he maybe test him and so forth. But Krishna's bringing him to acquaint him with the Ashrayalambana, the Vishayalambana, the Anubhavas, the movements of these cowherds, the Udipanas for Sakyarasa, all these ingredients, the Sattvika bhavas that these boys were exhibiting, to acquaint Brahma with all the ingredients of the kind of bhakti rasa that his sadhana was in pursuit of. This is why the Brahma Vimohan took place. One of the reasons. And through Sakyarasa, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. What a great teaching. In Bhagavatam it came out, because in Brahma's prayers, he points out that one line I cited earlier, Krishna's tu Bhagavan. Why make so much of it one line? Krishna's the supreme personality, got the fountainhead of all divinity. In the Brahma Vimohan Leela, in the context of the Leela, you know why. Krishna showed Brahma millions of Brahmas with millions of heads and millions of Vishnus, millions of Narayans. Incredible majesty. Showed they all came from him. So this Leela underscores this essential point. This is the key, the philosophical key. Jiva Goswami says, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, opening the secret, the philosophical secret, the philosophical cornerstone, how to interpret and understand the whole text of the Bhagavatam. So through Sakyarasa, which Brahma is pursuing, which is fully played out in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, in Brahma's prayers that follow that, reflecting on the whole thing, this comes out in no uncertain terms. 30-some verses this is coming out. So this is the beginning of that. Very important verse from the point of tapa, but a very beautiful verse also. He's describing Brahma. Let us read what Brahma says. He quoted this verse, Srivasa Thakur. Why? This verse says, praise unto you, most venerable one, son of cowherd Nanda, Pashangupat, Pashupangajaya. Pashupangajaya. That means the son of the cowherd Nanda. Praise unto you, the son of the cowherd Brahma. Your body resembles a rain cloud wrapped in a garment of lightning. Your face is resplendent, framed as it is by its gunja berry earrings and a crown of a peacock's tail feathers. Not fancy golden ornaments, but simple ornaments taken from the forest floor. Hmm? Rural, very rural dress, very ordinary, if you will. You are beautiful. You are beautifully set apart from others by this ornamentation, as well as by your forest flower, garland, horn, flute, and herding stick, as you stand before me on your tender feet with a morsel of food in your hand. He's differentiating Krishna here from Narayan. Hmm? Narayan looks like Krishna. He's also dark complexion like a cloud. He also is wrapped in lightning-like effulgent garments, but he doesn't wear gunja berry earrings. He's sitting on a golden throne, right? He's not getting his ornamentation from the forest floor and being decorated by his friends with different colored pigments, drawing pictures on him and so forth, picking flowers, putting them behind his ear. These are all their expressions of love and intimacy, these cowherd friends for Krishna. That's not how it works in Vaikuntha. He's differentiating. I thought that you were the avatar of God who came to me and gave me mantra, but now I see you are the source of God. Oh my God. You are beyond God. When God wants to be himself instead of God, and just play. And that's where I've arrived. Goodness. I thought I came here and I would teach something, expose some problem, but what have I found? What kind of place is this? Who are these friends? This is the verse Srivasa chanted to Nrsimha Bhagavan. Mahaprabhu said, chant a verse. Why is he chanting this verse? This is the verse of Anarmasaka here. In Sakyabhav, we can say. In Sakyabhav. This is how Krishna is appearing to Brahma after the whole Brahma Vimohan Leela as the perfect object of love for Sakyarasa. He chose this verse. And of course, Narasingha is an avatar, but he worshipped by Prahlad, whose deity was who? Who was the deity of Prahlad? Krishna, Govinda. And Govinda appeared before him in a way that was suitable for the circumstances as Narasingha. So Narasingha plays an important role, very important role in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. But he's making the connection here by citing this verse. Narasingha is one face of you, only one face of you, my friend. So here's a verse in Sakyarasa that he's citing. So this is a couple of examples where he's being asked by Mahaprabhu to say something, and he's drawing upon these verses which express his feelings. And then in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'll conclude with this. In the Madhya Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during the Rath Yatra, during the, what is that festival called, of the goddess? Hare Panchami? Yeah. They pause during the Rath Yatra, and there's a festival for the goddess. She comes out and says, where's he gone? Where's that Narayan? What is he doing? Right? He snuck out of the palace. And so Mahaprabhu said, Swarup Damodar, take the role of a Brajbasi. Srivasa, take the role of Narada. Here is the goddess Lakshmi. See her opulence. Which place is more opulent, Vrindavan or Vaikuntha? And then they began back and forth to make their case, make the case. Vrindavan is a dusty rural place, Cowherd dust everywhere. It's in the village. They make houses out of cow dung. And Vaikuntha, oh, what is the nature of that place by comparison? And so they went back and forth. Swarup and Damodar and Srivasa Thakur. Swarup Damodar in the bhav of like Lalita Sakhi, and Srivasa in the bhav of Narada. And when he was defeated by Swarup Damodar, he was defeated, and it was determined that Vrindavan is more opulent than Vaikuntha. I mean, I just gave you an example. The Brahma Vimohan Leela is the most extraordinary example of Aishvarya that you could possibly imagine. In Vaikuntha, there's one Narayan. Krishna showed multiple Narayans coming from himself in the Brahma Vimohan Leela. That's one way in which there's more majesty there as the background on which the sweetness can be played out. The more majestic Krishna is, the fact that we can get so close to him, the more wonderful that becomes. My God, he's like that, and he's willing to associate with me intimately like this. That, I mean, parlay. This you will pass out for this. This thought. What kind of person? And why is he doing it? Because he is Ananda in a full face. Just his whole being is Ananda. Love. The prema, of course, is the wealth of Braj. It exceeds the prema of Vaikuntha. It brings us closer to the one gem, Sham Sundar. Ujjwal Nilmani. So, to conclude, when Srivasa, in the mood of Nard, was defeated, what did he do? He put his hand under his arm and went like this. And he began to exhibit the anubhavas of Madhumangala in Vrindavan. He was happy for the victory of Braj over Vaikuntha. Long live Vrindavan. Gaur Bhakta Vrindavan. Gaur Premanande. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhuvyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.